Welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that promises not to mention Brexit, apart from there. Fuck. This week on Heart in Hand, Rangers return to action and get themselves into a very good position in the league. So welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar, I'm your host, and I'm joined this week by two of my buddies from the Patreon site, although you'll know them, they've been here before, but as well as being all-round good eggs and top Rangers men, they are also my co-hosts of our Italian football show, No Pirlo, No Party, which if you're a fan of Serie A, and much in the way we are, we urge you to go and check out. So first of all, the head of that, Mr. Adam Thornton.
Good evening, David.
And joining to make up the Italophile crew, and that's a file that I think is quite a good thing to be, is Mr. James Forrest. No, not that one.
Hello, David. Lovely to speak to you again.
Gentlemen, the reason I mentioned right at the start that it puts Rangers in a good position is we can go top should we win our match at the weekend. Now, obviously, that's because Celtic will be playing in the League Cup final. Grr, we should be there with them, but we're not. So we need to look at what we can do. And that's why I think that Saturday's 3-0 victory over Livingston, Adam, was so important, because we've screwed up situations like this before where we're all excited, we're looking at a goal, and then pretty quickly into it, we screw it up. That's been the case for a few seasons. This is now us beginning to get into our heads, okay, it's a long shot, but it is a shot.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think the Livingston game was crucial. We got the relatively early goal. I think it was the 19th or the 20th minute, but we seen that we kind of sit back then, and it was a wee bit cagey. And like you said before, the second goal is key. Now, it took us a long while to get it, but the main thing is we got it, and it's another game ticked off. And I think yesterday I was still bemoaning kind of lack of consistency, but actually when you look at it, I think Alex made a point to me. When you look at it, the games after the Celtic game, we've had a hell of a lot of wins in there. It's maybe just masked a little bit by the disappointment in the League Cup semi-final, and then some disappointing games in Europe. So we probably have been a bit more domestically consistent than I had thought, but this next month or two is crucial for that. Yeah,
well, 7 wins, a draw and 1 defeat. The draw against Kilmarnock and the defeat, obviously, at Livingston since then. So it's good, but it says a lot about Rangers, James, that, as Adam says, there is a perception that we haven't been doing too well. And I wonder how much of that comes not from us, the supporters, who I think are generally okay. The League Cup was hugely disappointing, we get that. But I think in the media there's this, whenever any Rangers fan starts to even talk about a challenge, you would think that we'd farted into the Director General of the BBC's soup, because how dare you even think you can possibly challenge our beloved Celtic? It's such a weird thing. In any other country, they're desperate for a title race. In Scotland, that if one of the clubs says, you know what, we actually, we know we're not the favourites, but we fancy ourselves here, we get treated as though we've been incredibly disrespectful.
You would think that if there was any footballing country in the world that needed a title race of any sort, it would be us. And yet, how dare we suggest that we could be the team that would actually do that? It is a very strange one, but yeah, I mean, the context of that stat is very important. 7 wins, a draw and a defeat. The draw and defeat, of course, were very disappointing. The draw coming at home, where we've been so much better this season as opposed to last season, and the defeat away at Livingston, we shouldn't be losing away there, to be honest with you. Although Livingston are, I think, a better side than what we maybe thought they would be coming into this season, but I'm sure we'll get to that, certainly with this game. I think also Europe plays a part in that, because our expectations have risen, because we can see what we are capable of doing in terms of performance. I think our performances, certainly since the return from the last international break, have been not as good as what we saw before. So maybe there is a sense of wanting to see us perform well as getting the victory with a number of fans too. But do you know, we're in a position where Celtic are dropping points as well, and it means that we're still in there. We're still kind of within touching distance. And as you say, this time next week we could be sitting here top of the league. They'll have a game in hand, but that in itself is just that psychological wee edge of saying, look, we're top of the league. We are very capable of doing something this season, and I apologise if I offend anyone by suggesting as such.
Yes, no, it's just a bizarre thing. It's not okay then, that this team still think they're good enough to go and win it. It's how dare you even begin to contemplate doing this, and it all goes back to the fact that they wanted us to be dead and we're not, and they are of course incredibly worried about 55 because it's going to be the worst thing that ever happened to them, and roll on it actually happening. So to the match, Adam, Rangers made a couple of changes, interesting ones at that. Gareth McAuley came in to play beside Connor Goldson, and even though John Flanagan was fit, Andy Halliday played at left back. Before we get to the up front change, which was Kyle Lafferty for Alfredo Morelos, I kind of get the impression that until Barisic gets fit, that might well be what the manager sees as his strongest defence at the moment.
I think definitely if Halliday starts on Thursday night, I think that's definitely, I would agree with that. I still have a wee sneaking suspicion that he might still think that Flanagan is a better defender, despite him not really showing that for us. I have a sneaking suspicion he'll bring Flanagan in on Thursday.
He'll definitely change the centre backs, by the way. I'll confidently predict that. There's no way he won't.
No, I think he will. I think we'll see Worrell or Katic. Probably Worrell for this one. Katic wasn't even in the squad, which was a bit damning, I would say, for Saturday's game. But I don't know whether I would play McAuley or not. I'm not sure he can do 3 in a week, and I think the game at the weekend might be more suited to his skill set.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. You do have to manage. I don't think you always have to manage players the way the manager does. I think that forwards certainly, but I think defenders can play a lot of games. But when somebody's 38, then yeah, I think you do have to be realistic about that. And up front, James, Alfredo Morelos would play a pivotal part in the match, but started on the bench. There had been a few whispers that he was carrying a slight knock, and clearly the manager just thought, because I think that if fit, Alfredo plays regardless. There's none of this managing him. He's fit, he plays. So the gaffer clearly thought, all these big games coming up, really not worth the risk.
Yeah, I mean, we saw those training photos, I think maybe a couple of days before the Livy game, where he wasn't present there, and that got a couple of people talking, but then he was there for the following day, just beforehand. So there's maybe something in that. I was half expecting to see Lafferty for some reason in this game, because with the way that Livingston play with the 3 centre backs, I thought Lafferty maybe would be brought in as a kind of a bit of hold up play. I'm of the opinion, as are a few other guys on the patron site, that Morelos and Lafferty don't really work that well together at the moment. Certainly with the system that we like to play with the 4-3-3, it doesn't quite work. So big games coming up. Morelos also on a booking. We'll get to that as well, I'm sure. Meaning that if he got another booking, he'd be suspended. So there was maybe a wee bit of thinking behind that. Listen, I think you're right. If he's not fit, even then you would probably play him, because he is such an important player for us, certainly. And but at the same time, I kind of got Lafferty being in there. I wasn't overly surprised by that. I was maybe a bit more surprised that Gresta didn't start. I know Candace is back from a suspension. I really like what Gresta did against Motherwell. I thought he was very, very good, and I actually thought that his style of play might have suited against Livingston a wee bit more than having your 2 wingers sort of hugging the touchline and Candace and Middleton doing the crossing. So that was maybe a little bit more surprising for me, but Candace certainly for Thursday is going to be a very important player for us for sure.
Gresta did play, was away and did play during the international break, so possibly that was the thinking there with Daniel Candace. who obviously had missed the previous match through suspension, so maybe to get him back, because he will play. I think he's been very good in Europe. I think some of his best performances have come in Europe for us with Daniel Candeias. But as Adam says, we took the lead through a wonderful delivery by young Glenn Middleton, who I think it's fair to say consistently is I think our best set piece option, because his delivery is really, really excellent, and it's not just once every so often. He puts more good balls in, Adam, than bad ones, so much so that it fell to probably the smallest person in the stadium at the time, who managed to lose his marker and then just head it in. A really simple goal against a team who are kind of famed for their set piece prowess, which I think makes it more impressive.
It was a very surprising goal. Yeah, certainly when I seen who'd scored, I just assumed it was maybe Goldson or something. I was up the other end in the Copeland for this game, and yeah, you're right. It was a tremendous ball in like that, in between the penalty spot and the goalkeeper. Absolutely no chance. And Candeias is not famed for heading ability at all. Never mind his height, but he took it very, very well. I feel like the whole Livingston thing, it's maybe easy to say now, but I feel like it was always a little bit overblown because they beat us, and even the draw with Celtic that happened a while back. That can always happen if a team has an off day and another team sits in, but they've only won, like the games that they've won this year have been Hamilton, St Mirren. I think they beat Dundee, they beat Hibs as well, but they're okay. I think teams are now starting to figure them out, and certainly at home I wasn't concerned at all playing them. I didn't think they would have much of a hope at their ground. Yeah, they're going to be tougher to break down than your Hamiltons, etc., but they are organised, as we've said before, but they're not particularly massive in the quality stakes for me.
They could have been 1-up with all that said, after a scramble in the box, and the ball fell to the Hamilton midfielder, return shot and hit the outside of the post. But no, I'll disagree with you, Adam. I thought they carried a threat at set pieces because their delivery's excellent, and they are fucking massive. There's no getting away from that. So, someone pulled me up for my swearing this week. Apparently, yes. I don't do it deliberately, folks. It's just I subscribe to the Billy Connolly school of thinking, which is that when people say, it shows a lack in your own vocabulary, well, clearly it doesn't, because if you don't use them and I do, that means I use 7 words or so that you don't. So logically, I have a bigger vocabulary. You see what the thinking is there, lads?
I would agree with you. Yes.
Of course you would, James. That's what you do. That's why you have a spot on here.
Woohoo!
Yeah, know your role. But I thought Livy actually played quite well for what they were, and people can misunderstand that when I said I thought Livy were quite impressive. I didn't think that they played sublime, silky football. I just think if you look at budget, expectation, where they were, and let's be honest here, the level of player that they had. I'll start with you, Adam, and then I'll come to you, James, because it was Adam's point. But I think that's a decent side. I think they're well coached, well drilled. They're pretty confident at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't particularly want to have a season ticket to watch that type of football, but I'm not a big one for this sort of moral way of playing football. I just think if you're Livingston, and as I say, you've got all those factors, do what you can to maximise points. And I just think that they are the best version of themselves that they can be, and that's all you can ask from a football team.
No, I totally agree. Sorry, I wasn't saying that they were playing poor in this game. I think they did really, really well in this game. From the opening hour or so, I thought they were good. I just feel you're right. They maximise what they've got in a similar way, I guess, to Motherwell, although significantly less dirty. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not a team like Hamilton who you can rip apart, or Dundee who they pretend they play in a kind of passing style, but they don't really. You can just tear them apart. They're organised. I just feel when there was chat earlier in the season about look how good Livy are doing, that'll be a tough game, this and that. I feel like it was just a wee bit of a bounce, I guess, from their promotion, etc. And I don't think there'll be a huge challenge. I don't see them getting top 6, to be fair, but there's no way they'll get relegated.
Now, I'm going to do something I don't often do, but I don't have a problem doing it, but it just very rarely does the need for it to happen occur, and that is that I was wrong, because on our post-match reaction pod, which is done immediately after game, I mean immediately, we go outside the stadium, meet up and go to the car to drive back into the city centre, and I had thought that Ryan Jack hadn't had a good game. I didn't think any of our midfield played particularly well, and he was given the sponsors man of the match, and I was a little surprised. And then there was a bit of online debate about it, and a lot of people were saying, no, he was our best player, he was brilliant. I watched the game back, and while I still don't think he was brilliant, I don't think any of our midfield were brilliant, to be honest. I thought our best players were up front or in defence, and I think that Livy had more of the midfield than I am comfortable with a team of their size having at Ibrox. But he did play very well in the first half, I would say, James. And it's interesting the difference in what you see when you're at the ground, and sometimes in where you're sat at the ground, and then when you watch back on TV and you've got the benefit of replays and overview, etc. It can be quite a different experience.
Yeah, I think that's right. You've got so many different vantage points, and people can see a game very differently depending on if they're sitting in the Copeland or in the Broomloan. Yeah, Ryan Jack, I was slightly surprised when you were talking about him after, and felt that he had a poor game. I thought he was doing very well in the first half. The second half, I think the team as a collective, we allowed Livy to play their game more than what I was comfortable with, and that went on basically until Morelos came on as a sub.
It did.
Yeah, and I think that as a team, our kind of order, the entire performance was kind of let down by that. But I still think Ryan Jack was doing the job that he does, and that role is one that it's not headline making. You don't often notice the work that he tends to do, I don't think. But I still think that he does a very good job in that kind of holding midfield role. He's our best option for that position, I would say. And it's interesting, going into this game, I thought that midfield three, based off the Motherwell game, I actually thought that was our strongest midfield at the current moment. You've got Arfield with the kind of box-to-box play, the industry. Ejaria's got a bit of flair about him. He's what we're using as that kind of number 10 position at the moment. I'd maybe revise that now based on that second half, or indeed that whole game. Arfield can be slightly hot and cold, even though he does play an important role in the team and is producing both goals and assists, is doing a good job. But sometimes it's one of those things where he's just maybe a couple of inches away from playing the ideal pass and stuff like that. And Ejaria, again, it's a wee bit, when he's good, he's really, really good, but he can sometimes go missing in games as well. So the midfield is a tricky one, but yeah, I would tend to agree with what people were saying in the thread post-match, that Ryan Jack was maybe a bit better than what you'd initially anticipated in the post-match.
No, yeah, and they were right. Yes, I was wrong. Happy to admit that. I think what happened is in the second half, Adam, Ejaria completely disappeared, and I like Ejaria. I think he's a good player, and I think he's done well for us on occasions. But he does, as James says, sometimes have games like this, and he was completely anonymous. He wasn't even doing that thing he's very good at, where he wins a lot of the ball back, and he wasn't doing that. And I think then that I got upset with the midfield collectively. And I think maybe lumped Jack in there. So no, I think he did do better than I had thought. He had a few loose passes, I think they'd stuck in my mind, but that's the joy of watching the game back, of course. But Ejaria is actually a good point, because I have friends who don't rate him at all, and I think he's a very talented player. I think he's good, but their point is he doesn't do enough, and by that what they mean is he's neat and tidy. He does win the ball quite well, but he's got 2 goals and 1 assist, and he is our attacking midfielder. He is our creative midfielder, and they're right, if I'm being honest with myself, even though I'm fond of him, and I think he's going to turn into a cracking player. It's kind of hard to argue. There are games where you're like, well, did he play any crucial passes? Did he make it? Was he shooting? Was he a threat? And there are quite a few games where no, he was neat and tidy, but that was about it. And there are times that's needed. It's been useful in Europe in particular, but there are other times where you just wish we had somebody that was putting opposition sides under a wee bit more pressure defensively.
Yeah. Just to, I guess, the midfield as a whole. I'll talk about Ajaria first, but yeah, I think you're right. There was only one particular instance in the game that I remember where he managed to get back and retrieve the ball in that kind of way that he does, but there wasn't much else. If he is neat and tidy, he offers a decent footwork. He does the unorthodox pass and gets things moving. Not yesterday, but in general. I think he is, for me, he's first off the bench, if you like. If you need to change a game or you want to even take this thing out of a game by keeping the ball, I don't think he is. We need to discuss the midfield. If anybody who listens to Tactics Talk will know that I bang on about it all the time. For me, it's the weakest part of the team. I kind of I agree with you. Your assessment of Jack yesterday, I probably agreed with yesterday in terms of the overall context. I thought he was better yesterday than he's been before. I just don't think in these type of games we need a player like Ryan Jack on the park. He not in this game yesterday, as I said, but overall this season, I feel like he slows the game down needlessly. If we've got someone in there like a McAuley or Koulibaly, if he was back on form, sitting in there at the base, I feel like that's better for us to drive forward and beat teams. When we have Jack in there, or also Koulibaly and Jack in there, I feel like unless that's away to Celtic or away in Europe or away to Aberdeen, say, where we're expecting to do a bit more defending, I feel like that works in those games. But games where we need to take control and get forward and dominate play, Jack doesn't really fit into that for me. I respect the water carrier part of it. I think there's absolutely a role. I think he's been magnificent in games like Maribor at home. One of the away European games as well, he was terrific, and generally he is a good player. But for me, I just think we need to be a bit more dynamic in there. We need, as I said at the start of the season, I think we've got a lot of midfield players in terms of numbers. We had a lot that were similar. Ajaria offers a bit of creativity, but really we need someone who is the player that we think Ajaria might be in 2 or 3 years, consistently able to dominate games. He doesn't dominate games fully. Arfield, I guess, to round out that three, for me, would always play.
Yeah, Arfield, though, I think a slight misunderstanding, or just a phrase James used, and James, I'm not having a go because I've used it myself, but he's not box to box. He's an attacking midfielder. He's a late run into the box. He's a getting on the end of the thing midfielder. Whereas I, like you, thought maybe he was box to box, but he doesn't really look comfortable, I think, back there. But in terms of what he contributes, goals, assists, danger, huge player.
That's why, I mean, he does. There's no doubt, as James said, he does blow a little hot and cold in this game. In this game is a classic example. He didn't really turn up until Morelos came on, which I know we're going to come on to, but that dynamic is really, really interesting. You can see how much he enjoys playing with him. But 5 goals, 4 assists for Arfield in the league so far. It's been a long time since we've had a player who can getting ahead of the striker and finish goals like we've seen with the third yesterday. So I'd be looking to bring in 2 more players in there if we can. Someone who gives us a bit of a complete midfield player, box to box wise, and someone who can offer us a bit of creativity. I'm not really talking about a number 10 in the traditional sense of like a trequartista or something. I'm talking about someone who can play a pass and can see a decent pass, still has some defensive power as well. They're not easy to come by, but I think that really is the priority for me. I know people are talking about strikers for the summer or January, and we need another striker, we need this, we need that. I think we need 1 definitely, but 2 starting centre mids for me to try and share the burden a little bit.
I am going to now wax lyrical about a Rangers player and enjoy doing so. So if you hear me, it sounds as though I'm getting further away. It's just my table's going up and the microphone's getting pushed further away because... Firstly, I think a wee bit of defence of a player, and that's Kyle Lafferty, who I saw getting a lot of criticism. I thought he did okay, and watching the game back, I still think he did okay. I saw he got a lot of criticism, and I can understand why, because his decision making at times was pretty poor. There were a few passes that went astray. He should have scored in the first half and didn't. But remember, this is his first start in forever, and I thought coming back, he'd been injured, of course. I thought it was an okay shift. Wasn't great, but I didn't think he was terrible. But that just leads up to when Alfredo Morelos did come on, my goodness, the change was immediate, and not just in terms of up front. Adam touched on it there, James. The whole team got better, and I thought Livy had by far the better of the opening 15 minutes of the second half, and then they didn't. And you know, Alfredo Morelos was brilliant when he came on, but it's not just about what he can do in that area of the field. It's everything. He's available for a pass. He works the defenders. They sit back a bit. They can't go forward as much because they know he's on. Some of the first touch balls round the corner to the wingers he played were tremendous. And then it was topped off by a goal that it's just a completely different level of striker from even the one he was at the start of the season, because when he got the ball out in the wing and started cutting inside, I was sitting with Martin, I said, he's going to score. Martin went, yep. And speaking to people afterwards, that's what you heard. They were like, I knew he was going to score. He just carries himself now and is that player. I think he's growing, because I don't think he's finished yet, but I think he's growing into a genuinely top-class striker.
Yes, totally. It was funny, as well as the team getting a lift when he comes on, I think the whole stadium got a lift as well. I think the fans were really excited because they knew that they needed something. We needed something a bit different now. We needed something, Lafferty. I agree with you, incidentally, that I thought Lafferty did a fine job. It wasn't brilliant. He was maybe lacking in terms of the actual striking department, but his hold-up play was fine, and I think that was possibly the job that he was being asked to do. And I think his criticisms that he's been getting is more down to how much of an impact Morelos makes when he comes on. There were people looking at it and almost comparing it, which is maybe a bit unfair.
That's a fair point. I think the problem that Kyle Lafferty had is, and people say, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. His problem is he's not as good as Alfredo Morelos. It's that simple. That is not going to change.
Yeah, completely. And you're right. I love the way that Morelos can play those balls out to the wingers just so easily. He's very comfortable on either foot as well. Like, his passing with his left and right is, just as good as each other. And his strength, his lower body strength as well. Whenever he's got his back to goal and he's got the ball and the defenders try to get in, the defender's never going to get there. He's such a strong lad. And to top it off, the goal, it's good pace, cutting inside. I honestly think he's growing into a player that's got the complete package. He's got 16 goals for the season. He is looking a much more confident, player and person in himself. Steven Gerrard is doing wonders with him as well, I think, and I'm really, really excited about what we could see from him, for the rest of this season. And it's funny, this time last year when there was this talk of China and the bids of like 8 million, and some people were looking at it and kind of going, let's say what, 8 million? I wouldn't necessarily want to sniff at that. See if we were offered double that now from a Chinese club or whoever. I don't know if I would take it, because I think he's that important to us, and I think he is. I'm really excited to see what he can do for us, and I think that he is vital to our prospects this season for sure.
Adam, do you want to pull up a chair and start rubbing your headlamp, or do you disagree?
No, I completely agree. 10 goals in his last 12 games. He started the season very well. We've seen that. If we think back that far compared to how badly he finished it last season, he started very well. Maybe had a slight, I don't even think he did have a dip, but round about the kind of Celtic UFA type period, he was a little quiet. Since the St Johnstone game at Ibrox, that's 10 goals in last 12 games, countless assists. I don't have them in hand. I tweeted them out a couple of weeks ago. It's probably doubled by now. And like you said,
and 15 ruled out offside unfairly.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, I want to talk about Lafferty a little bit actually in conjunction with Morelos, because I think I have seen a bit of criticism and it's a bit harsh. Yesterday he battered Livingston, really, the defenders. He didn't. It wasn't a Mark Hateley-esque performance, but he kept them going. He let them know he was there. He linked up a little bit. He wasn't great at it. He never really fashioned that many chances. But he did a job. He got them tired, and then you can just imagine everybody getting a lift, and the players who would not have got a lift from Morelos coming on would have been the Livy centre half. Yeah. I think I've just had to chase Lafferty about for an hour, and now I've got this to deal with. And there was a stat I seen. It was quite a pointless stat. I think it was on Twitter saying, any game that Lafferty started, we've not won. And I did a wee bit of digging on it yesterday, because I thought, oh really, that's weird. There can't be that many. It's only 4 games one of which is Celtic away, which I don't think we're blaming Lafferty for us not winning.
No.
One of the other ones is Motherwell away, where he scored 2 goals and we conceded 3. So again, it's not really his fault. Villarreal away, where he also scored and it was a draw. And then one which he probably could be slightly culpable in was the Livingston reverse fixture. So he's fine. I'm seeing some criticism. He's not played in the last 2 months. He's barely played. So it's one of those ones where sometimes people go out the team and people think they're a lot better. However, because Morelos is playing so well, in a way it's devaluing Lafferty a little bit too, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, on Morelos, I agree with James. I think he anything under 15 million just now is just silly, because there's too many risks, especially if we get through December and I believe we should be ahead going into the certainly going into the winter break. I think we should hopefully be clear in the league. If we are, that's a fantastic first 4 months or so. If we're at that position there, I wouldn't be selling him for anywhere near that amount of money, given that we'd have to bring someone else in and all the risks that come with that.
Well, I mean, you're seeing what's happened now that you've bedded in somebody. A, you've found somebody with this level of talent, but B, you've bedded them in and you're starting to improve them. Yeah, you're right. It's if you're going to sell him just as he's about to pay out, so to speak, it's got to be for stupid money. It can't not be. But no, he is excellent, and he sets up Scott Arfield for the third. Lovely finish, incidentally, from Arfield, and a good solid victory. Look, I as I'm sure a lot of people my age do, like to occasionally watch the old 9 in a row DVDs or DVDs of the 2000s league triumphs, and there are a lot of games like this where you're at home. You don't play well, you don't play badly, but you win 2-0, 3-1, whatever. These are important results because you can't win 7-1 every week. We get that. What you have to do is when you're not playing at your best, you can win comfortably. And then when you're not playing well, you can gut it out. And that's kind of what we did yesterday, and I was pleased with that. But another wee word, Adam, for a player who I thought has impressed in all the minutes we've seen him so far, and that's Gareth McAuley, who strolled it yesterday against a big physical side who, wanted to make their mark, and he was so calm, and I think he spread that calmness throughout the defence.
He absolutely did. When you think of Gareth McAuley, you hope that's the player that's going to come, that the one that you've seen at West Brom. You hope he's not showing a decline, and he looks a bit old and past it. He certainly didn't at all. He was flawless, playing on the other side, which was interesting. That's the first time Goldson's played on the left side of the centre halves, but they didn't really bother it, and it was quite interesting. It's almost making me think of Goldson in another way, because we've kind of been thinking of Goldson as the almost elder statesman of that defence when they've got Katic and Worrell next to him, and now Goldson's only 25 and he's probably played just about the same amount of football as a Katic or Worrell when you think of his injury problems. But McAuley coming in there, you kind of see Goldson in another way, and you think, God, I thought Goldson was quite the dominant leader, but McAuley coming in there is like the kind of old battle-hardened warrior that's kind of almost talking him through games a little bit in certain respects I'm seeing, so that dynamic's quite interesting.
James, we were over doing a live show in County Down the last weekend, and thank you to everyone from the County Down RSC for treating us so well. We had a fantastic time, thoroughly enjoyed it. But one of the things we were commenting on was pretty much every bear we spoke to raved about McAuley. Now, obviously, they're Northern Irish, and that they are going to be, proud of him. But none of them, they didn't just do it automatically. Like, for instance, it wasn't universal on Lafferty, was it? But all of them said to us, we were going, yeah, he's come in, he'll be cover or whatever. They were, no, play him. No, he's going to play. And it was just we were all slightly taken aback by the vehemence of, no, don't just look at his age. Look past that. He is still capable of doing a very good job for us. And so far the evidence seems to back them up.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't really say that they're wrong at this stage, because I'm really, really pleased with the way McAuley's come into the team. Both that second half against Motherwell and the full 90 against Livingston, I've been I've been thoroughly impressed by just the calmness that he brings to the situation, and he's not one that overly takes risks or tries to play the fancy stuff. It's nice, simple defending, play to the fullback, get back into position, reorganise things, and to have someone in there who, and this is a point that you've made as well, that he came into football a bit later than maybe other footballers do. So yes, you look at his age and say 38, but you wouldn't necessarily say that reflects this isn't someone that's been playing since he's been 18. This isn't his 20th season of professional football or anything like that.
Miles on the
he's
clock,
still maybe got. What was that?
Miles on the clock, yeah. It's the difference between, we sometimes look at stuff chronologically, whereas if you look at someone like Wayne Rooney, who's much younger than Gareth McAuley, but there's a lot more miles on that clock.
Yeah, absolutely, and for a central defender, it is easier to go on that wee bit further as well. See Davy Weir as an example. So no, I'm very, very pleased to have him in the squad. I think he is certainly an absolute starter for me now. Although I do kind of agree with what was said as well in terms of from a European point of view. I'm maybe expected to see a Worrell come in his place, and I'm okay with that, because I would, as much as I'm really enjoying the European run and whatnot, and I've been thoroughly impressed by what we've been doing, I would rather save him for the domestic games, because I think his style of defending is much more suitable to the Scottish game than maybe in a European game where you've got a different style of attack to deal with. So I would be more comfortable having maybe a Worrell and Goldson in there, but for domestic, McAuley every single time. And you're absolutely right with what you were saying about folk in Northern Ireland, and I'd like to echo that sentiments. Thank you all very much for coming along, those who came. They were much more excited about McAuley than they were about Lafferty. You really would have thought it would have been the other way, but I think it just shows you, as someone who's played consistently in the Premier League for what he has done with West Brom, we've got to bear that in mind when we think about McAuley. The experience that he has and the level that he's played at for so long that could be really invaluable for us.
Yes, absolutely. Adam, Alfredo Morelos picked up a booking towards the end of the match after he'd pretty much settled the match, and afterwards Steven Gerrard was asked about it, and I'll be honest, I thought that the booking was a bit of a joke. Sadly not the first time we've seen something like that, but Alfie gets clipped by a Livy player as he's running past him, turns to the ref to say, what happened? Did you see that? The ref calls them both over for a word. Alfie throws his arm up and walks away. The ref calls him back over. Alfie throws his arm up again. The ref books him. And Steven Gerrard, when asked about it, reacted a bit different to the way you would have expected and the way he's done in the past, where he said, no complaints, that's him suspended against Dundee. Now, Alfie, as we all know, was one booking away from a suspension, and given that it's Scotland, and we'll be honest, given the way he plays, he was probably going to pick up another booking. This is not the worst game for him to miss. I don't think he did it deliberately, because as people have said, when he scored he could have just taken off his shirt or ran into the crowd. He didn't do that. But I think it was more a case of Steven Gerrard wasn't exactly gutted that he wasn't going to miss a bigger match.
Yeah, I think we'll chalk it down to a happy coincidence. I think you're right. I don't think Morelos was intentionally trying to get booked at that point. I thought it was petulant again, and that's, I don't know how many times it is he's been booked for dissent, but looking at it, wider picture. If he's out for it, could have been.
Look, I'm going to defend him a bit here, and I've banged on earlier in the season about his petulance, and I will do when I think he's out, and he does need to learn, right? All of those caveats in place, right? But he gets booked when other players wouldn't. It's that simple, for the same thing, because referees have bought into this. He's a hothead, shite, and it becomes a vicious circle. He gets picked on, he gets frustrated for getting picked on, he then acts out. I've got sympathy for the guy, because refs have a word with players when they act like that, but with him they go straight to the card, and he does get refereed differently. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I agree. He completely does, and it's one of those things you don't want to blunt his abrasiveness or his competitive streak, and if you say to him, like, don't react and don't play with as much passion and intensity, you don't know what you're going to lose. So in a way, I guess you just need to try and manage it, and make sure that he's not going way over the top as he potentially has done in the past. I've got no problem with him picking up the bookings like that if he misses those less important games. It's maybe when it's a silly booking that causes him to miss the semi-final, for example. It's where I think just try and you know you're a marked man, at least be aware of that, and there's no need really to show dissent twice in a minute, especially as we said when he is a marked man and referees are a little bit less lenient on him than he would be with other players.
James, there was an interesting stat posted on followfollow.com at the weekend suggesting that in our last 7 matches, Rangers have picked up 10 yellow cards, Celtic have picked up 2. And in fact, for the season, Celtic have picked up by far the lowest. They've picked up 10 all season. The next highest is 18 compared to us on 27. This is just a coincidence, right? And you know, I'm clearly just paranoid.
Oh, clearly, yeah. It's just one of those stupid things about referees in this country that it's so weird that it doesn't seem to just be the press that seem to, Celtic seem to have wrapped around their little finger. It's refereeing as well. We are refereed to a different standards. See Willie Collum, Daniel Candeas, stupid fucking nonsense as an example. Sorry, I swore there as well. I do apologise. But I know it's such a telling stat that, and when people say, "Oh, you're just paranoid," well, look at the facts. They are the facts, and if you look at all the bookings that are there, and you look at some of the challenges that some Celtic players have put in, and they've not been booked, there's no correlation there. There's no we're not refereed to the same standard, and I don't think it's just Celtic that are treated much better than everyone else, even though they frankly are. But we are treated a lot worse than probably every other team in the country. And we do have shit refs, but there does come a point where you kind of go, right, seriously, come on to fuck, what's going on here?
Adam, we turn now to Thursday night, and again, a common sentiment, and one I can understand, and probably logically, as I'm sitting here now, can actually agree with, is, look, Europe, we've overperformed in it already. It's the lowest of the priorities remaining, so let's just box clever. But then I know that from tomorrow, I can't wait to go there. It's a massive Europa League tie against Villarreal, top Spanish side, at Ibrox, a sold out Ibrox, and if we win, we've got a really good chance of getting out of the group stages of the Europa League. So am I wrong to be thinking, like, okay, yes, I want to win the league, etc., but fuck me, I want to have a go at this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of be a little bit relieved when either we get through or we go out in a way that we don't need to keep changing our minds in terms of what's the priority and what's this. I'm just enjoying having great games to go and see in every competition. I prefer just to take one game at a time, see what happens, play our strongest team in these games. Like you said, David, a win here puts us on 8 points. Villarreal will be on 6, and depending on how the Moscow Rapid game goes as well, we could potentially need to go to Vienna, and a draw will do us. It's a brilliant achievement. Slightly sour taste in my mouth of only picking up 1 point out of 6 from Spartak, but I've begun to let that go. I think we could just about be home and hosed if we had a couple of little things in either of those games that went our way. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't see it as, we better rest players for the weekend if we're playing Villarreal. It's not as important. I think we go and we play. If we go out, we go out. But I think we owe it to ourselves. We've wanted to get back to the big time for 6 or 7 years. It would be a shame if we took this game slightly less seriously on the basis that we want to protect ourselves for future games that we might not even win anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. If there was any guarantee, if you could say, right, yeah, we'll, but you can't, and you could just be left with nothing. So no, that always give it your best and see what happens. James, you on our site, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand, you're involved in the La Liga show. Esco Inferno. And it's safe to say there, you do know a bit about Spanish football, and it's safe to say that Villarreal are not having their best year.
No, they are having a bit of a shitter. I think it's fair to say they have a manager that doesn't seem to click with the squad. An ex-player, Calleja, who was part of the Villarreal squad when we last met Villarreal in the Champions League all those years back. They have talented players. Santi Cazorla is one that many people will know, of course, and they have exciting strikers such as Gerard Moreno and Toko Ekambi, Carlos Baca as well, although he may be injured. He could be a fitness doubt for the game on Thursday. Their issue, I think, is at the back. They don't really have any defenders that overly scare me in the defensive sense. They have decent fullbacks. Mario Gaspar and Pedraza in particular is a couple of players that I'm quite fond of from a fullback point of view, but their centre defenders are not that great, and I think they are, on our night at Ibrox, when we're playing like we know we can in these stages, I'm quite confident we could get a result. I would say that we need to watch their Nigerian winger Chukwueze. He's having a bit of a breakthrough season. He likes to cut in off the right onto his left foot and will probably have a shot, so he's one to keep an eye on from that point of view. But no, I think they are in a bit of a rut. As we're recording, they've just kicked off against Real Betis. That will be one to keep an eye on. If Villarreal can get a result, they may be on a bit of a high going into this game, so we need to watch that. If they lose, it's not impossible that there could be yet another managerial change before a team plays at Irish, which would be 3 for 3, which must be some kind of record in European competition. So that would be one to keep an eye on. I'll be interested to see how that game goes. But no, I'm quite confident if we play at our best, I'm quite confident we could get a result, and I think that puts us in a very strong position for qualifying, because the other game, Spartak and Rapid Vienna, that could go anyway, I think, and I'm maybe kind of hoping for a Rapid win there, because maybe a draw between the two of us in the last game might be enough for us to both go through, so that would be an alright situation.
Yeah, that would definitely suit us. Okay, folks, that's pretty much it for this week on the Rangers side of things, but there is just time before we go to give out our weekly award, the Total Hartson Award, and that's when we look round the world of football, but all sport, but mostly football, and see who has done something just so unbelievably stupid, something so moronic that it could have came from the mind of the former Wales and Celtic striker John Hartson. So, Adam, if you'd like to kick us off.
Sure. So, as I'm sure some of the listeners know, myself, James and David do an Italian podcast on Patreon on Heart and Hindsight, which is called No Pirlo, No Party, where we look at all the games and various talking points from Serie A. So one thing I wanted to mention, which relates to this, it's David, it's not quite in the Gigi Bicali stakes, but it's one of the examples of crazy Italian ownership and sacking managers, etc.
We always like that.
I've got one. Genoa president Enrique Preziosi. First of all, the article that I found on this starts with, "Believe me, I'm not crazy," which, as we all know, is what a crazy person would say.
Correct.
His manager at the moment is a guy called Ivan Juric. And that in itself, he's pretty much close to the sack, I would say. He got hired last month. 6 weeks ago, the manager that he replaced, Davide Ballardini, had an excellent start to the season. Genoa were flying quite high. He replaced him because he didn't really like him. He said, "It's not really about me, but I don't like him and the players don't like him. I'm replacing him." He brought in Ivan Juric. A little bit strange. They haven't won a game since, pretty much, and have plummeted, so he's now being sacked. But the interesting thing about this is it's not the first time he's done it. Ivan Juric was first appointed by Genoa on June the 28th, 2016. He lasted until February 19th, 2017. Was replaced by a guy called Andrea Madonnellini, who was then sacked within 6 weeks and replaced by Ivan Juric. He then comes in from April 10th, 2017 through to November 2017, was sacked and was replaced by Davide Ballardini, who then, as I mentioned, was then sacked, and Ivan Juric has come in for the third time. So I know that Italy is a bit strange, but for me, being sacked 3 times in 18 months is really going to go somewhere, and I cannot see that he's going to come back from it again. Surely to God they will not hire him again, and why would he accept it? So that's one for me, to kind of show how crazy Italian football is.
That's what I was going to say, is that, you know, the Acid House, the Irvin Welsh short stories book that got made into a movie, there's a one called A Soft Touch.
Yeah.
And that's Ivan Juric. He's the soft touch of football management. Again, though, look, this happens in Italy. Culturally, to us, it's really weird, but in Italy, they do this. But if you sacked a guy 3 months ago, why is he right now? You know, what's he got that's changed in those 3 months? It's just an odd one, but it happens quite a lot. But I love the idea of a club chairman going, I just don't like him. You know, he's doing well, but fuck him.
Yeah.
I like that. That's how I would think I'd like to run my business. James, you are going to take us to a talking point I'm sure all the listeners will have noted over the weekend. And in fact, like me and you and Adam, could have been all looking forward to watching the match. It's been postponed. It'll be tomorrow. It's been postponed. We don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah, it was bad enough when the first leg was postponed due to rain.
Yeah, this is for those who don't know, this is the Copa Libertadores final between River Plate and Boca Juniors, a very famous rivalry, and of course, being sad football geeks, we were all looking forward to watching it. The first, as James said, was called off due to rain, which can happen, you know. But then this one got a bit out of hand, Jamesy.
Oh yes, the Boca Juniors bus was severely attacked by River fans, with stones thrown, glass broken. The bus had to kind of race into the stadium quick as anything. A lot of Boca players had suffered cuts as a result, really injured. The police were like pepper spraying River Plate fans who were trying to get at the players, but because of the wind, the pepper spray then kind of blew back and would get into the Boca Junior players' faces. It was all just a bit of a calamity. Now, what CONMEBOL, South America's version of UEFA, did was they sent some doctors into the dressing room for Boca to assess the players, and what they found was that several players had suffered abrasions. Indeed, 2 had suffered corneal abrasions, as in cuts to the eye, which meant that they would have to go to hospital. However, considering this, and what the literal translation of their findings was, due to this situation, we consider that from the medical point of view, there is no cause for the suspension of the meeting. In other words, grow up and play the fucking game, which seems a bit harsh when you've got guys that are basically their depth perception is going to be fucked.
Yeah, they're bleeding from the eye, yeah. Yeah, it's a little harsh.
And the trauma of dealing with what they had to deal with. So rather than a Hartson of the week, I want to nominate some Hartsons. And they are Dr. Osvaldo Pangrazio, Dr. Francisco Matthew, Dr. Jorge Pagura, and Dr. Jose Veloso, who I'm sure are all season ticket holders at River Plate.
Yes, it makes me laugh when we go on over here, and just this week there's been more of it from professional talking vagina Davy Provan about, the Old Firm game, it's so violent. No, it fucking isn't, right? I mean, we like to build it up in our mind, and there is some nasty singing at it. You cannot deny that, and some people get called names from a distance of 200 yards with 400 cops in between them. No one can deny this. But this idea that it's somehow like a recreation of the streets of Belfast in 1979 is so out of kilter with the actuality of it. And I just, these rivalries, Rome derby's the same. There are derbies all in the world that are genuinely violent. Feyenoord Ajax, I know not local, but still. So yeah, I'm going to go with James's. Just because it's the more topical, but a close run thing, Adam. But congratulations, James, your doctors win the Total Hartson of this week award. Okay, folks.
Can you imagine the fits that Sky would be having if that was I think an English game?
Well, no, that's I think why they were wanting it to go ahead, because basically the TV company were saying get this game on.
And imagine it was Italy, they'd be like, I don't care if you're
Italy, they'd have played it. Yeah, that's one thing. As Adam says, we're all sad Serie A fanboys. We love it, and we were talking about how in Italy there's very rarely a postponement of a top division game because for weather. If it's on TV, now you'll get other games called off, but if it's on TV, you'll see every season you'll see some ludicrous weather conditions, and it's because if it's on TV, you're playing, and they don't care. They've set aside 2 hours. And by God, a football match is going to fill it. So I wonder if there's a shot of that going on as well. Okay, folks, that's pretty much everything from us this week. Just a few things to remind you before we go. First of all, is our subscription site on Patreon. We've told you about a little bit of the content that's available on there. It really is worth it. There is so much content on that for just $1.99 per month. You will love it. And if you miss the old school Heart and Hand, then myself and Scott are there on the aptly named David and Scott show. And you'll be able to join us for that. So go and have a look at that. And also, Christmas is coming. And tat. You need tat. You've got to buy some shite to give to people. Why not buy some Heart and Hand shite? You can get T-shirts, you can get mugs. Actually, I'm doing this down. The mugs are great, Adam, aren't they?
They're terrific, yeah. And they're also, everything's 25% off at the moment. Not that we're trying to capitalise on Black Friday or anything,
hey, I don't remember authorising that.
That was Colin's idea.
You don't get the fucking taking blue pounds out my pocket.
It was Colin. It was all Colin.
I'm not fucking doing this because I enjoy it, you know. But yes, if you go to heartandhand.co.uk, you'll be able to buy a lot of Heart and Hand merch. Please do. It's pretty good quality shite. I mean, it is shite. I mean, it's useless. You don't need it. Complete waste of time, but that's Christmas. What are you going to do? Honestly, do you really want to get people fucking gloves and scarves and shit like that? No, don't give the money to Marks and Spencer's. Give it to me. I'll reinvest it in the club.
Stocking fillers.
Stocking fillers. Yes, stocking fillers. Absolutely. Some top range shite for you to buy. Don't worry. Once we get Mike Ashley going, I'll stop selling this pish and you can go to the club shop. But till then, come and visit me. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening. Just time to thank my executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Miles, and my wonderful guest, the lovely Mr. Adam Thornton.
Cheers, guys.
The sexy Mr. James Forrest.
Thanks very much.
And we'll be back on next Monday. We won't be back on Friday. We'll do a double up because we're obviously playing on Thursday. There's no Heart and Hand extra this week, but we'll be back next Monday with a bumper episode. Until then, take care. Thanks, bye.